I have to move on to another story now. And on to page 2, the question which is going to dominate the news today, and you're going to hear a lot about this. You've heard a lot about it already for the past few weeks. Can the Tory Party move on from Brexit? With polls showing that only 2% of the country actually give a toss about this anymore. Most of the people in Northern Ireland are quite happy with the protocol, but Rishi Sunak has decided to stake his entire political capital on a new Brexit deal. In the hope that this is going to give the Northern Irish Assembly, get them going again in time for the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, which is coming up, and then a planned state visit by Joe Biden. None of which will look good or could happen if the DUP has collapsed stormont over Brexit. So, predictably, the headbangers of the Tory Party, and there's one picture there next to Mr. Sunak, aren't very happy with it. The DUP usually aren't happy about anything anyway. The deal is getting presented to the Commons today, isn't it, Kevin? And the EU President, Ursula von der Leyen, is coming over for a joint press conference when they're going to announce this brilliant deal they've come up with. So what is their brilliant deal?
Yeah, it all seems to be very choreographed with Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president, coming over, as you say, talks with Sunak, then he'll speak to the cabinet, then they'll have a little joint press conference. He may make a statement to the House of Commons, that's kind of expected, and at some point the deal will be published. Now, the Brexit was a bad idea. Northern Ireland was ignored, really, the problem, that 310-mile land border, which if the UK was outside the European Union, if it wasn't going to be there, the UK button, the European Union, where was it going to be? So to avoid jeopardising the Good Friday Peace Agreement, was put down the Irish Sea with essentially checks on goods going from Great Britain to Northern Ireland and the other way, then from Northern Ireland over into the Republic of Ireland and the EU common market in single market. And the agreement by Boris Johnson, which so I think he has an absolute cheek over the criticism now of Sunak, was he essentially agreed to pretty bureaucratic controls. So a supermarket truck going over needs basically a bit of paper, a form for just about everything, and all sorts of restrictions were introduced. Now, what Sunak is trying to do is to simplify all that and have a green lane for stuff that just goes from Great Britain, England, Scotland, Wales to Northern Ireland, and then there's a red lane where you'll have some more checks, but it won't be onerous going if the stuff then goes into the Republic of Ireland, the European Union. And there's areas such as Boris Johnson agreed VAT rates, for instance, would essentially be in Northern Ireland, would listen to what's happening elsewhere in the European Union. Now, he's trying to get rid of some of that, but there will be, as John Major says, a minute oversight by the European Court of Justice, which is enough to send the Brextremists of the Tory Party, the European research group, crazy, and to some extent the DUP. And the DUP doesn't speak for the whole of Ireland. It kind of it gets all that corner of Ireland. It gets confusing because remember, Northern Ireland voted to stay in the European Union. Almost all the other parties wanted to stay in the European Union. They see how the protocol works. They'd like to get rid of some of the bureaucracy, but they understand why it operates. But the DUP, I think, it's become a Brextremist party. But it also, I just wonder about the good faith, whether it wants the protocol issue to be resolved, because if it does, they said they'd go back into power sharing, and the Stormont Assembly, which has not been meeting for more than a year, would start gathering again. Well, if they do that, there will be a Sinn Féin First Minister. And I just do not believe the DUP want a Sinn Féin First Minister in Northern Ireland. So they're looking for excuses and reasons to not go back into power sharing.
Yeah. There's a lot of other stuff going on, isn't there, around it with the DUP as to what it is they're actually after. Because the DUP were always pro-Brexit, but always rather slightly didn't really like the Good Friday Agreement in the first place. And the one thing about Brexit is that you have to have a patrolled land border with the EU, which the DUP knew full well all the way along. So maybe that was why they supported for Brexit.
You're right. The DUP opposed the Good Friday Agreement back in 1998. Geoffrey Donaldson, who's now their leader, he was at the time a member of the Ulster Unionist Party, David Trimble's party, which was for it and helped negotiate, and he quit over it, the DUP, although Ian Paisley later had a change of heart and became first minister with running Northern Ireland with Martin McGuinness of Sinn Féin. Yeah, but the DUP is still hostile to elements of that agreement.
Yeah. And they would very much like to spend the 25th anniversary with it not really working very well, I would have thought. Now, Fiona says, this is in response to the thing I said earlier, most people in Northern Ireland are happy with the protocol. She says, most people in Northern Ireland are not happy with the protocol. Well, Fiona, I've had a quick Google. And according to Belfast Live, our sister website in Northern Ireland, our sister paper, most voters in Northern Ireland do not rank the protocol among their highest policy concerns. The top concern was the NHS, followed by the economy, and about a third of people have put the protocol in their least important concern, that of the thing they are least bothered about in Northern Ireland. It may well be they're not entirely happy with it. You might be entirely right with that, but it's not. It's not up there, top of their agenda of things to worry about. But it is the top of the agenda, isn't it, Kevin, for a lot of people in the Tory Party who have spent the past, oh my God, nearly 7 years screaming at us about this kind of stuff. Do you think when Mark Francois or Jacob Rees-Mogg or any of these people, Ian Duncan Smith, come out and start talking about the DUP or the protocol or a land border or a sea border or anything else, most of the public are going to go, huh? Not this again? What? Shut up, go away, I don't care. It's going to damage them, isn't it? Before, when they did this, it made people think, well, they're going to protect Brexit or destroy Brexit, and it broke us all apart. Now, when they're doing it, it's going to unify us with thinking, please just stop, please just sign Rishi's deal and move on.
Yeah, the crazy loopy loons are so doctrinaire and ideologically driven. They can't let the last war go. They've got to keep on fighting. Well, I think most people have moved on wherever you were, remain or leave kind of acceptance. And most people now, you get majorities, people regret Brexit, wish we'd stayed in. They can see it's not delivered what was promised. Others would argue, I would argue it's a disaster, but people just want to make it work and go. I think your disagreement on the protocol is people in Northern Ireland agree with it in principle, but the operation of it, they would like to be made a lot simpler and less bureaucratic to ease trade. But they're not saying get rid of the protocol. They're just saying make it work better. But there are these people in the Conservative Party, some outside the Conservative Party too, not all in the DUP either, who are just obsessed with it, and it is utterly ridiculous. Mark Francois, I think he chairs the European Research Group now, which in truth isn't what it was, but he said in an interview, we know what's going on, we're not stupid. Well, I think Mark Francois sometimes does sound very stupid on this.
If you got to the point where a lunatic anti-vaxxer is actually the chairman of your group, then probably everyone else has left the group.
Yeah. Got to remember, Rishi Sunak in 2016 was a Brexiteer. He backed Brexit. He's backed it all the way through. But what's happening now, instead of Brexiteers blaming Remainers for what goes wrong, they blame each other.
Yeah,
I'm Brexit. I'm more Brexit than you.
Yeah, but this is the thing, isn't it, Kevin? That a lot of people, this validated them. You know, the likes of Mark Francois. Where would they be without Brexit? As Rebecca was just saying there, you know, Boris Johnson was the cause of all this, and now he's walking around trying to say that it wasn't me; it was some bloke called Joris Bronson. Without Brexit to validate and give them a thing to get their teeth into, the Mark Francois, the Ian Duncan Smiths, the Boris Johnsons would just be an eccentric on the back benches. Because of this, it made them who they are, and therefore they don't want to let go of it, do they?
Yeah, well, Johnson's the lying liar who can't stop lying. He just lies all the time. And, of course, he just used Brexit. He didn't really believe in it. I've known him for a long time. He was very hostile to the European Union, but didn't really believe in Brexit. Didn't think he'd win the referendum. He just saw it as a route to number 10, which it worked out for him as a career development opportunity. Fantastic. But somebody like Mark Francois, we wouldn't be talking about him now. Nobody would have heard of him outside his Essex constituency if it hadn't been for Brexit. And perhaps that's what he can't let go. It's his rolling 15 minutes of fame. But I think he's in danger of becoming, well, certainly a figure of fun. He's probably there already, but he's becoming something of a hate figure. And he may prove how powerless he is now if this deal as we think it is, gets through, which it should, but Remainers like me, look, we lost, we're losing again. This is still Brexit. It's just making Brexit work better. But for some of them, the obsessives, they just have ridiculous red lines they keep drawing. But that's it. It's his reason for existence. I think it's made the Tory Party ungovernable. I mean, that is the problem, because they all just jump up and down and scream and shout about things all the time, and they just look like a total rabble.
Yeah, exactly. This is what your column's about today in the paper. Now, Paul says Theresa May's deal was probably the best, where everyone stayed in the single market and customs union. But of course, Paul, who destroyed that? The DUP. They're back again. And so, very briefly, Kevin, you mentioned there that the topic of your column, the fact that they're just tearing themselves apart again. Now, if this comes to a vote, this new deal, which will probably happen at some point, but not immediately, we're told today, that sort of Tory broad church that's crumbling that you talk about there, they're not going to be able to get all of those people through the lobbies in support of it. But Labour have said they would support it because they do want Brexit to work, and they certainly don't want to reignite all this again. And they do quite like the fact that they have to keep rescuing the Tory Prime Minister on this issue. So, what's going to happen to the party, though, and Sunak? Are these headbangers a big enough majority that it matters, like it used to, or are they increasingly irrelevant even to the Tories?
Yeah, I've no doubt it will go through Parliament, but what Sunak would want to do is to make sure he gets the majority of his own MPs back in it, so he's not entirely reliant on Labour, Lib Dem, SNP votes. But the problem for Sunak is he's unquestionably weak. He's coming at a very bad time after Liz Truss. He wasn't even elected by the Tory Party, just got enough nominations from MPs. So he's just going to be fighting time after time after time. There's just battle after battle. And I think he'll just get absolutely exhausted by it. I also think sorting out the protocol is a good idea. And yeah, he may deserve some credit for that. However, why didn't he think about this in 2016? Northern Ireland was completely ignored by those campaigning for Brexit, despite Tony Blair and John Major, ex-Labour, ex-Conservative Prime Ministers, both warning you've got a 310-mile land border between those 6 counties in the northeast of Ireland and the rest of Ireland. What are you going to do? And it was just completely ignored, like so much else was.
Yeah, exactly. And when people said this is going to start the Troubles up again, I remember journalist Lauren McKee got killed in the kind of protest that came after that Brexit vote. They said, no, you can't. There'll be no restart of the Troubles. You're being absolutely far too dramatic. Let me just quote you quickly. This is what someone said on the 26th of June, 2016. The British people will still be able to go and work in the EU, to live, to travel, to study, to buy homes and to settle down. There will continue to be free trade and access to the EU single market. Now, Kevin, when I tell you that comment appeared in the Daily Telegraph, you're going to know who wrote it, aren't you?
Yeah, it'll be Boris Johnson. His £250,000 chicken feed column, as he called it. He just lied and lied and lied. He created his own false reality of Brexit, and there was a mania at the time, I think, in the country. Brexit had not been much of an issue for more than a tiny minority of people. Often didn't even poll in the top 10 issues that mattered until Cameron, for strategic reasons, a disaster, promised the referendum. He then got a majority. The Lib Dems couldn't stop him after the 2015 election. And Boris Johnson, who was going to side with Cameron, then goes against him for his own reason, and he just made it up as he went along.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I suppose Cameron did manage to achieve with that vote is what he wanted, which is, he was being stuck with problems by UKIP, taking away the Tory vote and starting this big old row about Brexit and everything. And then he has destroyed UKIP. Where is it now? It's got no councillors, no MPs, no nothing. It's gone. It has lost its party. Yeah. It is an ex-party. So there was that. That's one thing they gained from it. I suppose Cameron was right in that respect. But of course, thanks for the rest of it, Dave. Now, we do need to move on to some good news, but in the meantime, we'll have a little wrap-up of questions at the end. What do you think about your energy prices going up? Are you happy to pay an extra £100 or so a month every month? Is that going to be said? Do you think there are people who have a real problem with that? And what do you think the government should do with the unexpected windfall from the drop in wholesale prices? And what do you think is going to happen with the Tory Party in this Brexit deal? Does it matter anymore? Does anybody care? When is Mark Francois going to go away and shut up?